What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the second solo album by Australian musician, rocker Courtney Barnett. This one is called Tell Me How You Really Feel. I like the album title there. It's kind of blunt, it's kind of honest, and it's asking a question. And there are lyrics on this record that play into that style of writing. And if you know anything about Courtney Barnett, her deadpan singing style, something that is more just almost ramblings from her mind, I think that this album's title definitely fits that, just like her last one did. Now, Sometimes I Sit and Think was a great record. It's one that I was late to the game on, but it would have been one of my favorite releases of 2015 had I known about it at the time of making my year-end list videos for that year. It's a record that played up those stylings that Courtney is so great at. The lyrics are witty, she has a lot of dry humor. It's just a fun album, and there's a lot of great guitar moments on it as well. And on this follow-up, I actually didn't hear any of the singles from the record for whatever reason before it dropped, so I went into this thing cold. And how does it turn out? Well, honestly, I'm feeling underwhelmed compared to the debut. I don't think this is going to be a super long review because I don't find myself having a ton of things to say. Normally, I find just words spilling out of me to talk about certain things or certain aspects of a record that I want to discuss. But here, it's a record that is straightforward in what it wants to be. And if you were loving that style, you were absolutely going to be on board with this. And it's not that I'm not, and I like a lot of the songs here. I just don't find that there's as much to discuss and dissect as the first time around. The humor is still in check and on point. I love the commentary that's added on many of these tracks, especially on some of the brooding cuts that also kind of stick like a dagger. I'm not your mother, I'm not your bitch, for example. That's one that I think a lot of people are going to misinterpret. Like Courtney herself said, it's a general song. It's not necessarily about men as many people are perceiving it to be. It's just a general song saying, hey, if you're being rude or if you're being an asshole and putting other people down, this is your step off track. There's a whimsical feel to some of the tracks here, others that are going to lure you in with that traditional Courtney Barnett style, and I do feel like she probably took some influence from the whole Kurt Vile sessions, the Lot of Sea Lice album that came out last year. It was a good record overall. I didn't find myself coming back to it for repeated listens, but it's something that I do stand by as being a solid entry into both of their discographies. And as she comes away from that, you can see really reflections of that mixed with her debut album, and as a result, we just kind of get a mishmash of sounds that aren't bad, they're just not as memorable to me. Now, at the time of recording this review, I've been sitting with the album for over a week. I've been giving it plays here and there, and it's something that I do feel I have warmed up to. At first, I was honestly pretty cold on it. I wasn't really feeling many of the songs, I wasn't getting into the vibe of them, and there were only a few that I found to be super memorable. And at this point, I think that singles like Nameless, Faceless definitely are standing out. I really like the lyrics on that one, the way that it pulls from poetry, especially in the chorus, and the way that it talks about just women's plight and the way that they feel uncomfortable in certain situations. But I do feel like it interjects some humor in there as well. Great guitars on the track. I love stuff from that to even the opening cut, Hopefulness. It's a play on words there. It's not hopelessness, but hopefulness. And that one starts out in a very slow manner. The guitars gently cycle, and we really get Barnett's vocal presence here, which is low in the mix, and it gets up a little bit more. There's a little bit of instrumentation that's added in towards the end, and she's saying, I'm getting louder now, and then we cut into City Looks Pretty, which has some great guitar performances on it. I like the drums and the bass on that track as well, and the chiming keys that line up in the background as well. That's something that shaped up many of these tunes. It's something that you could actually hear that's a nice touch in the background of some of these cuts. It's not just like a synthesizer or anything. It's just some genuinely good key moments that pop up like there. And obviously on the next to last track on this record, actually, Walking on Eggshells. The best song title award goes to crippling self-doubt and a general lack of self-confidence. That moment comes through and is not the best song here by any means, but with a title like that, how could you not at least give it some repeated listens? It deserves it. It deserves some praise and attention. Right after that, we go into Help Yourself, which is a great moment here. I like how she's talking about dependency on certain things and wanting attention, it seems like, wanting to be recognized for certain things, and she obviously adds her humor and her style to this one as well, and I have to say it's one of my favorites on the LP. Need a Little Time has a nice groove to it. I like the vocals on it, but I just find the repetition of the me parts and the fluctuations there to get a little bit old with repeated listens. I thought it was growing on me, but then it kind of cycled back out to the point where I don't consider it a top favorite anymore. That and the track right before it, Charity, are on a little bit different sides of the fence. I do feel like Charity adds a little bit of extra flair, and I like the lyrical content there better. It's just that the record gets to a little bit of a rough start here and there. It's a little bit spotty in places. I know this isn't my best review. I just didn't have a ton to say about this record. It was hard to put to words, but I didn't want to skip it considering I never got to her first album, at least not in video form. I did give a text review to that, so I will link to that down below if you do want to give that a read. Loved that one. This one, not in love with as much. Definitely not feeling some of the tracks. I do love some of the cuts. I will put my favorites, least favorites, and a link to stream the album down below. Overall, for me, I'm feeling a 3.5 out of 5. Let me know your thoughts on the album in the comments section down below, and if you're able to, please support me on Patreon at the top link down below, or it's the annotation in the corner. It helps me keep doing indie reviews like this, because even though those don't get as many views, I know a lot of you guys like those. So make sure you check out another indie review for now right here, another recent review here, and I'll see you soon on ARTV.